Alright, looks like we are live. And I think I named the stream wrong. I'll have to correct that in post. This is the third Immersive Railroading weekly development stream. And I'm going to send the link to the patron so they can hop on, and within a few minutes we'll get started here. In the meantime, while we're waiting for people to join, I'm going to set up a slightly more correct consist. It's been bothering me having these British rolling stock behind a American locomotive. See, we got a few people showing up. Let's give it a few more minutes and keep tooling around with this. There we go. This is probably good here. Alright, I'm going to do a quick run around this track, make sure there's no one blocking, and we'll get started. Hey Admiral, hey Tigerbird. Just clearing some of this off. I'm actually going to place some of these on some side tracks, so I do want to come back to this in a few minutes. Because there's a fair amount to show today. I don't think this is going to be quite as long of a stream as some of the other ones, but there's still a fair amount to show off that I'm pretty proud of. Hey, wrong. Let's put this over here. Is that going to couple? No, that shouldn't couple. I just want to give myself plenty of runway to play with this this locomotive. That should be good. Okay, well, welcome everyone. As I said a few minutes ago, this is the third Immersive Railroading weekly development stream. We had a fairly busy week, and there's a good amount to go over. The thing that I'm most happy with is progress on the in-game controls, and I'm going to show both some of the models that I've hacked together as part of the base mod, and as you can see over there, some models from other packs that are currently being developed with these new features. So the big thing is, if you remember in some of the previous streams, when you would move these controls, it wouldn't really follow where the mouse was going that well. I've done a lot of really horrible and annoying math, which is probably my least favorite part about IR, but I've done the math in such a way that it works most of the time. So I can grab the reverser, move it around. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for basic interactions. I'll move that back to the center. Oh, and you'll notice that if I move it to the front and I click back here, it doesn't actually detect it. You have to click on it where it sits. So I dynamically calculate the new bounding box depending on the new position of the control, which comes in handy. Comes really in handy for some of the other stuff that I've added. So let's put the brake all the way on. Again, it's not perfect, but it feels like you can see I'm kind of dragging around in the curve, and if I step on this side again, it should. Oop! Come on. Come on. It's gonna make me a liar. Oh, that's not happy. Well, it mostly works. It was working better before. If you're sitting here, mostly works. So there's some weird math behind the scenes. This is why I haven't quite released a test build to the general population yet, because I'm still fiddling with a bunch of this stuff and it's not quite finished. Yeah, the logic here is not perfect. It's most of the way there, but it's not all the way there quite yet. So we can bring the throttle to full, push forward a little bit. It won't really do anything because I've got the brakes pretty much full on. Can grab that and shut that down. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That's, again, not perfect, but a huge step in the right direction. So more in-game, more locomotive controls around. Something that I don't actually have a model to show you guys with just yet, but I'm really excited, is if there was a whistle pull here, it would actually work. I've got that code merged, and that will be in the next patron test build, and eventually will be publicly released so people can actually play with that. But you could click, drag down. It's similar to holding down the in-game key for doing the whistle. It's a similar feel, but you actually have a whistle control that moves around, which is pretty sweet. So I'm reasonably happy with how that came out. So I should really turn off the rain so we can see what we're doing here. Let's see. Yeah, tempting the demo gods, it's always a problem. So, closer, but not quite perfect yet. I honestly spent most of the day working on that, and I've got it nailed down enough that at least I know how to debug it correctly and work through the bugs. But in any case, hey, look at that. We now have moving doors. And not just the fact that doors move, but they actually move correctly now. So whenever you're standing inside or not, they function. One thing I might do during this stream, if I'm feeling up for it, is adding the ability to link doors. And we'll see where that would come in handy a little bit over there, I think. Maybe not on that model, but I may have some other models in here that we can take a look at. So, yeah, doors working, windows are a thing, and widgets. And I'll try and show some of that off. Again, tempting the demo gods, but I just am having such a fun time when this stupid thing actually decides to work. There we go. And let's go like that. There we go. It's not perfect, but it feels pretty darn good. Let's say I want to look at this side. There we go. I'm just so happy that this works as well as it does. It's been a lot of work. Let's see. Ender's asking, can you turn off the prompts? Yeah, the train brake and that sort of stuff, definitely. Oh, turns out I broke that piece of track. Let me fix that. Yeah, the prompts you see in game where it looks like I'm clicking on stuff, or when I click on stuff it shows this off, that's just a debug feature, especially as a lot of this is very, very new. Alright, that looks like it's there. There we go. Cool. And as we get up to higher speeds, we can start pulling back on the reverser a little bit. I think I coupled to something that I left over here. There we go. So one of the things in a future update, not this next one, but one after that, is actually getting the reverser and boiler calculations working better. Right now it's useful, but it's not super realistic. So I'd say there's another couple days worth of tweaking to get this to the point where I would put out a test build, but it's getting there. Alright, what else do we want to show off? Let's see, questions. The keybinds stick around for those who prefer keybind controls. The defaults will always be key bindings turned on, especially for smaller gauges especially. But one of the things I have to work on before this is really ready to go out to people is figuring out how to set up a immersion level that's easy to configure. Because some people don't want to have the key bindings at all and just want to have to be able to, modify controls in game. And most people just want to be able to use the stuff that's there now because it works well enough and they're used to it. So I don't necessarily want a slider, but I want to be able to opt into bits and pieces of this, which I think could be pretty cool. So yeah, so I did a bunch of fiddling around. The lighting is a lot better. I'm not going to go into all the details now. Let's time set night, but I will show you. I did get tender lights functional, and what happens now is I can come over here. I can set that to shunting mode, and you can see the actual light turns off. So if you have headlights or things of that nature on pieces of rolling stock that are connected, if there's no power being provided, it shuts that off. So it's not just passenger cars that can be aware now, it's, I think, all stock. Right, I have to reverser. Oop, wrong way. Still getting used to all the new controls. There we go. And hook back up. Oh, still in shunting mode. No? There we go. Now it's all coupled up. And the light's back on. Huzzah! Alright, you got a couple questions? Let's see. What about a control block? Yeah, I think right now we have the control augments, and I want to expose most of this stuff through control augments, like with the reverser and things of that nature. But it gets a little bit funky, to be honest. So one thing that I want to work on in the next few releases, probably not this next one, but actually implementing better computer craft / augment support, but rather I'd want to go through and make the proper multi-blocks and have it be a little bit more realistic. For those of you who were around at the time, the augment system is entirely a placeholder for actual like trackside options. So you'd place like some sort of either block or multi-block next to the track to keep an eye on like the locomotives and add fuel, remove fuel. So it's on the board if you want to vote on it. But it's going to be a few releases until I actually have the time for that. Let's see. All right. See, Tigerbird says, yeah, like the remote control in a block with, yeah. Effectively, that's one of the things I want to do for the for when I get around to revamping the computer craft and open computer support. So here, and I apologize, I'm going to mispronounce this, but Mizco Pro. I was testing some other stuff and still have that in my game. Admiral had a quick question. And yes, the firebox glow is separate from the actual lighting system. If fuel is required, it requires something to be burning. So regardless of if pressure is built up, the firebox will light, which is cool. So if we come over here, you can see we actually have support for doors. Can hop in and open doors. Open doors. And windows. So there's some cool stuff here. Let's see. Sebastian, you're in here. I think I have your pack in here. Do you have a good passenger car to show off? I'll take a look in a minute, but I want to actually hook this up to... so turn this on. So one thing to mention is, by default, any existing stock will just light up the shell and parts of the cab. If you set it up correctly, and this is something modelers will have to opt into, you can have an interior and an exterior shell. the interior shell will be lit up, the exterior shell will not. So that would allow like the exterior not to be lit up and the interior to be lit up. It's a pretty neat system, but it is a little bit of a pain. So that's on, reverser. Let's go reverse it there, throttle up. There you go, coupled to that. And the blinking still works. Let's see. Oh, Admiral. Let's got a question. So I might just say leave that as emissive lighting for now. Let's see. QWR. I can't. I will not be able to pronounce that. So he asks, will the door parts be a thing before support were added for the animators? That's probably going to be a no. You have to specify. Let me pull that up. So this you actually have to specify underscore t, like so the underscore TL -2x shows that it needs to be translated 2 meters in the x direction as it opens. It's quite easy to retrofit existing stock. It uses this the standard coordinates in Blender, so you don't have to deal with anything too crazy. But existing packs will need to be updated if they want to have support for draggable components. So let's see. Let's see. I think Sebastian, you gave me to. So that's Nathan's. Let's see. I don't remember whose pack is whose. Some Festonog stuff. This looks like. Nope. I'm not sure. Let's see. Okay. I don't think I have your Sebastian. I'll pull it down for another stream. But long story short, Sebastian did some really crazy stuff. So he's got windows that work. He's got doors that work. He's got toilets that work. Actually, if you don't mind, Sebastian, put a link in the comments after this goes live to, or even in the live chat here to some of the craziness that you've gotten working. And if you have something that isn't a window or a door, you can call it a widget. So like a toilet seat, for example, which I would have never expected someone to add, would be called a widget, which is just frankly kind of crazy. Things like armrests, he's also gotten working. So yeah, so lots and lots of progress there. The lighting, actually, the lighting code behind the scenes is a heck of a lot more efficient. And I'm pretty darn happy with that. Yes. Ender the Strange asks about seats that you can sit on. Not, like, you can't actually sit on them, but you can open and close, just, like, open and close the seat and, like turn the sink on and stuff like that. Yeah. So, let's see. Okay, I do want to go take a quick look on GitHub and just talk about what's changed. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, also multiple gauges are supported. I'm not sure I mentioned that, but if I come over to this K4 on, I think this is Minecraft gauge, and hop in, all the parts still function. Take the brake off a little bit. There we go. So again, not perfect, but good enough for at least initial testing. A little bit more refinement to happen there. Let's see. think that's most of what I changed for that. Lighting support. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's been some efficiency improvements along, which is one of the reasons I want to take a look at the Universal Mod Core repo real quick. So I did fix, one thing to mention is I did fix the threaded texture loading so that these actually load properly in game now, which is cool. Let's see. Did I not actually open that pull request? Oh no, I actually just pushed that to master. So 4 days ago I pushed let me pull this over onto the window so I can show this. So I pushed a commit that I'll need to port to the other Minecraft versions, but this is actually pretty big. It's only a few lines of code, but this actually, for me, added 50 to 100 frames per second in my test world. Long story short, Minecraft was doing a lot of extra work for tiles that weren't actually rendering anything. So if you look at this piece of track, like this whole section is really only rendered by one block in the center, and all the others are just used for like their bounding boxes and for the bounding, like this little bounding box, and for rendering the rail bed and augments. But really there's only one piece of track that does a significant amount of rendering. The way it was set up before is all those pieces of track Minecraft would, all those individual blocks, Minecraft would do the work to prep the render, but wouldn't actually need to do that. And it was actually taking up a fair amount of frame time. So if I hit F3 in here, somewhat like, let me turn the rain off, because rain kills frames. But, like, it's not super fantastic, but 120 frames per second on my graphics card is not bad. So, yeah, if you've got some track-heavy worlds, you will definitely see some improvements. So, I'm pretty darn happy about that. Let's see, what else do we have going on in here? So, yeah, there's the threaded texture loading. Anything else that's new in here? I think that's pretty much it. We're about 20 minutes in. Let me double check and see any questions. Working seats and beds. Working seats I might do at some point. It's not high on my priority list. Working beds, probably not ever, to be honest. I like to keep the amount of direct modifications to Minecraft code as minimal as possible, and that would require some pretty heavy hacks. Yeah. So, yeah, just going back to something Admiral said, for, like, the ground lighting, I think, like, for the firebox, you could just do emissive lighting here. I could potentially add, like, an additional light source that hangs out by the trailing truck, wherever the firebox is. I'll definitely consider that. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think beds will be... I personally don't plan on adding them. That's a good question. What controls and what they do in the future? Yeah, doing some sort of like option to like in-game mouse, like when you mouse over this, it would say throttle or a reverser, throttle, brake, that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. Okay. Yeah, I'll put that in the GitHub issue, or the GitHub pull request. I don't have anything like that, so that may end up being broken out into its own piece of work, just so I can get this stuff moving along. But I'll put that down here. Yeah, it depends on how hard that is. see, wrong. Just had another question. Can you give model gauge locomotives the simplified controls while keeping the newer, more complex ones for full-size locomotives? I think that could make sense. I've been procrastinating figuring out exactly how I want to set up the configuration for that. Because I want to make the configuration simple enough that anyone can just hop in and modify it, but there's some weird edge cases on how that should work. That's definitely something that you should keep reminding me about as I iterate on that. Because I think that does make sense, I just don't know how that would integrate quite yet. Let's see, Mizco Pro, adding door closing and opening buttons that would control all doors for a train from the locomotive cab. I think for this release, I don't plan on adding buttons to the locomotive to do that sort of control, but that is something I'd like to do. I do plan on adding support to the augments to modify the door state, I think. Because I definitely need to add reverser, and adding doors to controls is something that also makes sense at this point. I think a lot of the GUIs are going to get a bit of a revisit, probably not in the next update, but the update after, which would make more sense for that. And if you to be fair, if you have an augment and you set up a station, you can automatically open and close the doors without too much hassle via redstone. Let's see, Admiral. So you mentioned a linkage system either last stream or in a voice chat. Any more information on that? Yeah, so right now, yeah, the way that this works is how all these pieces fit together is the rotation points are hard-coded, and there's some hackiness that's going on behind the scenes to get all this to move correctly. What would be nice is to be able to say, okay, this is the rotation point, excuse me, for the eccentric crank, and this is the rotation point for, or this is where the piston rod connects to the drive rod, and things like that. So something modelers can do, like if I bring this back up, come on, there we go. So this right here is like the pin for this rotation point, so something similar to that. To be clear, this won't happen in the next release, but it would be pretty cool to do something like this. I haven't quite figured out what that would look like, and I think it would get a little bit hairy, but I'd be willing to spend some time to try and figure it out. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. To be determined if and when that would be in, but I would like to try it at some point. Tigerbird, I don't think I'm going to have the augments control the widgets. I only really plan on having it control the doors automatically. Button on the door to open it. That's an interesting idea. So what I'm thinking is, so it's not quite as clear on this one, but what I'd like to do is, like, if you have a double door, actually, I think this is that one hooked up? No, those aren't hooked up yet. But if you had two doors here that needed to open together, I think I want to create a way of linking those together, and you can also, I think, link a button to that. Yeah, the way I'm envisioning that would work. So you could push a button and move it slightly, and that would open the doors automatically. Yeah. Yeah, levers, sliding controls that trigger. Yeah, I like door latches. So yeah, so the ability to add a widget that would control doors, I think, is something that I can do, and I might even try doing that during the stream, just for fun. Yeah, if you guys, let's see. Okay. Let's see. Sebastian, real quick, sent me a drive link, which I can download real quick and drop into my instance. And while I'm rebooting Minecraft with that new pack, Actually, also, yeah, I'll start making some modifications in Blender. Okay, pack is downloaded. Downloads, this is... Alright. Let's boot this up again. Okay, in the meantime, let's add a button for this door so we can link it together. Now you get to see how truly bad I am at Blender. Let's see. Buttons directly onto doors. That is a good question. I've got to think about that for a sec. Ow. Cat. That is an interesting idea. I think the first thing I want to do is set up a linkage system between multiple components. And then, yeah, I'll keep thinking about that in the background. We might either do that today, or I might work on that as time goes on. Okay, Minecraft is booted up. And patrons, I'll get you a link to a jar as soon as CurseForge is not borked anymore. Alright, so we'll come over here. Did those actually load? Did I screw that up? Voxel trans IR. And that looks right. So you said SBB. Could be the search isn't working. So I've got the arc big boy. Let me take a look at the log, make sure that actually showed up. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, so I would need to recompress it with that at the top level. Okay. Yeah, I guess I can do that. Okay, so this wasn't actually set up as a proper resource pack quite yet. Cool. I'm going to save and quit to title. Options, resource packs, voxel trains. It's working its way through. So while that's thinking, so what I'd like to do is have a way to link both of these doors together so they operate as one, but you can still drag either without trouble. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe call it underscore. How do I want to do this? So I think what I want to do is say if it contains control underscore and then something, parse the something until you either hit an underscore or the end of the line. That, and then use that as the key behind the scenes. Yeah, control group. That's nicer. Okay. And I'll export that in a minute and play with that. Okay, let's take a quick look at voxel trains and hop into the code. Cool. Did that work? Looks like they're there. Let's see. So this is the RABE. There we go. She said AB5. Yep. Oops. Let's get out of that. There we go. Let's see, AB5 and not the AB2 has the first one. Okay, that AB5 is what you're talking about. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at some of this. Turn that on so we get the lighting, which I have to say looks absolutely fantastic. Alright, so yeah, here's a good example of where... Oh, it's not happy about those doors. Let's see... Was this the right thing to... There we go. There's a chair that spins. Ah, so that sets the throttle. I guess that's the reverser. That's a not happy texturing. Exterior. Okay. So your exterior doors work with a paintbrush. Okay. That's backwards. Well, I'm gonna need to fix that. Here we go. Let's see. I'm just walking around clicking on stuff, enjoying this. Yeah, well, we'll take a look more at some of that stuff next stream. Let's hop into the code real quick and make it so that these are now linked. So let me export this. Object, boxcar. Alright, this should hopefully be pretty quick. Let's go to the control here. equals part.key. So that's the default. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to say part.model IDs stream filter dot find first. I'll update the filter in a sec. Dot or else key. Okay, so it's to dot. How do I want to do this? So now all we need to do is parse out that piece of the group. Let's see. Sensitive controls be altered. I think so, but again, it's still pretty new. I think so. It just depends on a few things once we get a little bit further into stabilizing some of the in-game controls. Is there performance hit for moving parts? I would say there is a slight performance hit. It does have to do more individual rendering calls. However, I've done a lot of work to optimize stuff, so I think at the very least, with the other optimizations I've done as part of this work, it should be par for the course. But we'll see. I would be surprised if there's a massive performance hit. I haven't seen any significant problems so far on my machine, but again, we'll put out a test build and see how stuff works for folks. Let's see, let's take a look at the lights. So this was the flare. Oh, I put the flare in the wrong spot, that's why it's in the library. I still need to fix that. Let's see, pattern compile. This, excuse me, kitty, won't be the most efficient way of doing this, but it's, for the amount of times this is called, it's not going to be too much of a problem. So we're going to want to say CG, so we want underscore CG underscore followed by something that does not contain an underscore star. Which, for those of you who aren't familiar with regex, just looks like gibberish, but it's a way of procedurally defining like a text parser. Ish. I know some computer scientists would yell at me for that description, but it's close enough for now. Compile, matcher of group. Oh, actually, we want to do .find. Group 1. There's now a cat on my shoulder. Hi, buddy. Let's see. That is a good point. I do want plus and not star. Hey, happy cat. Alright, group of 1 or null. Dot. Ow! Ow, get off. Oh, scratched my sunburn. Objects not null. Okay. Not the prettiest code, but that should work. Let's see. I think that looks good. So, oh, and then I actually need to use the control group. So that is going to be, I think I put most of that. Yeah. Inside of just one or two functions here. I also need to make that public. Control group. Get based on type. I think that should work. Let's see where else this part is used. Is this? Yes. Oh, that I think is... That's wrong. I need to fix that. That is incorrect. I'm actually going to hop back into here and uncheck this because I just noticed that that's kind of broken. Yeah, Tiger, don't look too deep at a lot of this code. It's not super fantastic. I mean, these are public final, but yeah, I've learned a lot about doing Java the right way as I've gone through this, and in other cases I've just been lazy because I didn't feel like doing things the perfect Java way. Alright. Not bad, 506 items of rolling stock, and it boots up in just a minute or so. Minecraft loading. And the icons. Just curious. Okay, that's only 31 megs. Tigerbird says, I don't know if you're Superman or a mad scientist. I say, is there anything wrong with both? Okay. Right, what was I doing? I was hopefully linking these together. I need to just disable that on this world. Hey, look at that. That works. So you can see that side is moving with this one. So there's some cool potentials for this. So you could have like something you click here and move. I think adding a button, I don't think I'm going to do it during the stream because we're getting close to the hour, but I'll definitely consider adding the ability to have a button on the door. Would be interesting to actually open and close it. I mean, it makes sense. It's something that I wanted. What is it? It's something that I want to do, but it's just not something that I want to code. But yeah. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty happy with how all this stuff is coming together. As many things in IR, it's not going to be perfect, especially in the first iteration. Like, the door's a little bit flappy, but everything's an incremental improvement. I mean, I look back at some of the older IR videos and am surprised at how, I don't want to say bad things are, but how primitive a bunch of stuff is. So, cool. Yeah, buttons on more moving doors. It's actually not much more math than what exists currently. It's actually less than what I was doing earlier today. Let's see. And the delay to close the doors. Yeah. I don't know. I think the automatic closing doors, I think that will be a set up a redstone thing to automatically do that. I still need to figure out how the augments will work for this, but it should be pretty cool. I mean, the light flare does not look perfect, but it looks good enough. And when you have Optifine installed, it looks even better. Let me commit the changes I've got now. So rotating and translating doors they should work just fine. It applies all the rotations and translations at the same time, so it might be a little bit screwy. So if someone wants to put one of those together and see how that works, that'd be appreciated. Because I don't really know what that should look like in real life just yet. Let's see. Okay, I think that's all good for me to just commit. Oh, I'm actually on the integration branch. Let's see. What about implementing a Mars light to the lighting system once Admiral has the model somewhat finished? I'm still trying to decide how I want to do variable illumination, because there's like some that like blink on a regular basis and stuff like that. I do want to figure that out at some point, but that's not. I think that'll come later. Ping me on Discord and we can talk more about Mars lights and other light control schemes. I've got some ideas, but I'm not in love with any of them. Sebastian's going to try with some control groups and some other cool doors. Let's see. Yeah, to move them out and then move them to the side. Yeah, so so it is possible for me to apply one then the other. I'm not 100% sure on how exactly I want to do that. Yeah, ping me in Discord this week and we'll chat about how that should work. There's a certain amount of, it looks close enough versus the required code complexity for that to work correctly. But yeah, we'll chat this week. And we'll push that up. Yeah, multi-stage move, it's tricky. It's not honestly something I want to spend too much time to do. Yeah, and that's also the other, the thing I'm gonna have to decide in the next week or so is how far I want to push this before the next release. So what I'd like to do is get this to the point where I can give it to the modelers, let them go nuts for a couple weeks, ask folks to update stuff in the base mod to support some of these new features, and the other thing I wanted to get in this release is the permission system, and I'm just going to need to buckle down and work on that. Honestly, I've been procrastinating that because it's been I'm not looking forward to doing that work. But once I have this stuff wrapped up well enough that I can have other people playing around with it and bug testing it, then I'll switch gears and really just focus on that for a week or two and get that set. And Sebastian's asking about the multi-deck stuff. Not yet. The code for that is going to be screwy. And yeah, I don't want to get into that just yet. Someday, yes. Not in the next release or two. Sorry. Let's see. It's just about 7 o'clock. I don't think I'm going to add buttons now, but it is... Did I put that on the... Let me put that on the list to consider here. For buttons to actuate a control group. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Probably wrap it up in the next 5-ish minutes or so. Woo. That's still just so fun to play with. Let's see, is CurseForge back up and running yet? Nope. CurseForge is still broken. Awesome. Tigerbird, what is the meaning of life? Trains. Trains are the meaning of life. No. Honestly, that question is one of the reasons I quit my job and I'm doing Patreon for a while. And just enjoying the work I do for a little bit before I get back to the corporate grind. Because life's short. Let's see. Sebastian asks, when will you start working on the light modes? You mean like toggling lights back and forward backwards? Probably this week. If I do it for this release, I'll start on it this week. And I should, that way people don't have to update their models multiple times. Yeah, here's a broken CurseForge. Yeah. Are articulated frame locomotives on the list anywhere? Those should already work. All locomotives should support full articulation. I think there's a GE... I don't know if there's a Crocodile, but one of those similar ones. I may even have that in here. An older version of it. Do I? It's Does that include guide bogies for them? Yes. Could have swore I still had that resource pack loaded. Maybe not. Well, in any case, it should work. Yeah. Span bolsters. You could probably hack that using the articulated code. Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could effectively have the drive wheels be the trailing set in the front and the bogies be the front. And I think that would work, and just have the rotation point in the center. No promises, but there's a chance you can hack it so that would work. Yeah, give it a try, just with like just a simple hack together model, and see if it works. Let's see, any other plans for the week? Honestly, the lighting stuff, other than figuring out the the actual control system, for like, hey, you're moving forward, this is red, and when you're moving back, it's green, or whatever, or blinking lights. That's, other than that, I think lighting is pretty much ready for release. Yeah, I gotta think about that. So, finishing up lighting, finishing up at least the initial pass of the controls, like the in-game control stuff. Yeah, honestly, I think we're getting closer and closer to a test build. I'm not going to promise everything's going to be working right off the bat, but it should be reasonable. Oh, also, if you wanted to use widgets, you could probably use widgets to open and close knuckle couplers, which would be kind of cool. Let's see, more specific to an earlier question, control sensitivity, more of an effect on the controls doors without moving the camera as much. Yeah, so I think both on a global scale, I think there could be a setting for that. And I need to tune it so that it, like, given how far you could possibly move, like if you're only, like if the door only opens this much, I think you'd want a bit more control. I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. It is, right now it is proportional to how far you move, but there's like gauge scaling and stuff that could be taken into account. Yeah. Adding a system so you can just step in once a door is open. That would honestly be kind of cool, especially now that we have semi-functional doors. I think I could detect walking into a door, and a door, if it was at least somewhat open, and mounting you at that point. I think that's possible. Actually, Sebastian, would you mind putting in a GitHub issue for that? I don't want to do that as part of this update per se, but adding that on in the release after would definitely be something that would make sense, if there's not already a GitHub issue for that. If a train leaves Paris heading southwest at 350 kilometers per hour, how long until it reaches Berlin? Let's see. That depends entirely on which direction the wind is blowing. Yeah, I'll definitely play around with, I want to play around with the sensitivity this week. I mean, honestly, to me, the current implementation feels pretty good. Like, that's not half bad. Walls inside the coaches acting as walls? No, that's not in this release. This is one of the reasons I've held off on the partial steps and stuff like that, or the partial levels and that, because I think it's possible for me to detect some of that based on if there was such a thing as a floor tag. I could potentially construct a way of figuring that out, and maybe you could mark something as a floor, mark something as a wall, and I could build up some internal hitboxes. But that's almost a silly amount of work, but would be the reasonable way to do it. So someday, not today. Well, there's stuff like I don't know, like making it so there's gaps that players can fit through. I might try seeing how that works with interior, but especially for well, yeah, it's tricky. I'll put it that way. So not planning on working on it anytime soon. Pre-built nav mesh. I'd probably do it using groups. Rain falling through the train. It's a tricky thing to do, and also have work well with shaders. I know how to do it, but getting it to work in all scenarios is something that is, again, a lot of work, and is not something I'm planning on doing right now. I might put that on the voting board at some point, but I'm not quite ready to commit to working on that. Oh, you could also probably figure out how to make draggable pantographs at this point, which would be pretty sweet. Let's see. Alright, any final questions to wrap up the stream? This isn't one of the ones that has a animated interior. Yeah, I honestly am blown away with what the modelers have been able to do with just the initial prototypes I've put out so far. You could definitely do like an internal lever that controls the pantographs. That would be pretty sweet. Put that in the cab. Animated air pumps. At some point. Again, piece by piece, like the next couple of releases will have more and more realistic stuff in there. There is, I think this release for the most part is going to be new features. The next one, I'm going to spend a bit more time on the some of the more long-term maintenance tasks, like fabric support and stuff like that. Better computer craft integration. So, handbrake, wheels, levers for each car. When we add independent brakes, the machinery will all be there for that. So it's definitely, we're on the path to implementing wheels and levers to toggle handbrakes for cars and stuff, but we're not quite there yet. Maybe next update. Not this one that's coming with the one after. Let's see. Yeah, and the control groups are on a locomotive by locomotive basis. Animated couplers at some point being the keyword. Definitely not on the short list. Alright, well, I need to eat some dinner, so I'm going to call that here today. I'm going to call that for today. Thanks for everyone for hopping on and giving me some feedback and just hanging out while we run through the features. I'm super excited about this update. I honestly didn't think that this stuff would progress nearly as fast as it has. And I hope you're enjoying this stuff as much as I am, because there's some really neat stuff that's going to be in the next release. So I will see you all next week, and patrons, I will send out a survey for what times work best for you guys, and figure out how we can find something that works for everyone's schedule. Thanks again for supporting, and I will see you in the next one.